how a psychological experiment involving marshmallows and a psychological phenomenon known as Stockholm Syndrome might shed light on the behavior of electors during elections. An intriguing question, isn't it? Imagine the marshmallow test and Stockholm Syndrome, two seemingly unrelated concepts intertwined with the complex world of electoral behavior. Intriguing, right? But how do these elements mix together in the mind of an elector? What secrets might they reveal about us in our political decisions? Pay attention as we unravel this interesting intersection of psychology and politics. Let's first understand what the marshmallow test is all about. This psychological experiment, conducted way back in the late 1960s, offered children a choice. An immediate small reward, typically a marshmallow, or two rewards if they could wait for around 15 minutes without giving in to temptation. It was a test of self-control and the ability to delay gratification. Now, why is this relevant to us? Well, think of the elector as the child, and the election promises as the marshmallows. The elector must decide whether to take the immediate gratification of a well-crafted promise or wait to see if the politician delivers on their promise, potentially reaping greater rewards. The trust that the second marshmallow will come is crucial in this decision-making process. However, this is where things get interesting and quite complex as we factor in the psychological phenomenon known as Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological response that's as intriguing as its name. It's a term coined in the 70s, following a bank robbery in Stockholm, where hostages developed an emotional bond with their captors. This psychological phenomenon is not exclusive to hostage situations. It can manifest in various scenarios, including politics. Just like hostages begin to sympathize with their captors, voters often develop a similar bond with their elected officials, even if they've been let down. Fascinating, isn't it? This paradoxical behavior can be attributed to the human propensity to form attachments to familiar figures, even if they failed us or broken promises. The Stockholm Syndrome can explain in this context why voters might re-elect leaders who have disappointed them in the past. We tend to cling to the devil we know rather than venturing into the unknown. Now we have the two pieces of our puzzle. Let's put them together. It's time to connect the dots and see how the marshmallow test and Stockholm Syndrome come into play during elections. Let's begin by revisiting the marshmallow test. Remember, this was all about the ability to delay gratification. Now imagine an elector faced with a similar test. They're promised substantial change, improvements in their lives, but these are like distant marshmallows, uncertain and requiring patience. The elector's decision might hinge on whether they trust the promise maker, the politician, to deliver that second marshmallow. If they trust the politician, they might be more willing to delay their gratification, to vote for promises of future prosperity rather than immediate but potentially fleeting benefits. However, if the trust is missing, if the politician has failed to deliver on past promises, the elector might prefer the certainty of the present, the single marshmallow in hand. But why would electors continue to vote for leaders who have disappointed them? The answer might lie in Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological phenomenon where captives develop an emotional bond with their captors. In the political arena, this might manifest as voters developing an attachment to politicians who, despite their shortcomings, have become familiar figures, almost a part of their lives. Consider, for instance, a leader who has consistently underdelivered yet maintains a strong voter base. These voters, despite their leader's failures, might feel a strange sense of loyalty. They've grown accustomed to the leader's presence, their promises, and despite the disappointment, they find it hard to break away. It's a form of political Stockholm Syndrome where familiarity breeds not contempt, but a peculiar loyalty. Of course, these are just theories, ways of interpreting the complex landscape of electoral behavior. They remind us that politics is not just about policies and parties, but also about people. So what does this all mean for us as electors? We, as electors, need to step back, observe, and think critically. The next time you find yourself in the voting booth, remember the marshmallow test and Stockholm Syndrome. Who knows, it might just influence your vote.